Alright guys, so today I'm going to do a build log for Hotline 2. I'm actually going to get some stuff installed and ready for water cooling inside of the Phanteks Evolve X over here. But unfortunately we're not going to get around to bending any tubes today because I encountered a last minute issue. So you see the pink in the custom sleeves here, right? And then you compare that to the pink fluid that used to be in the original Hotline. Very different. This is almost like a fuchsia. There's more purple to this. And this is just like a straight hot neon pink almost. I looked online, I could not find a single fluid that came anywhere close to this color. They all more or less look like this. However, I did find some Primo Chill colored tubing in UV pink that matches the pink in our cables very closely. So I'm kind of leaning that way now and having colored tubing instead of colored liquid, which is going to obviously change the overall look of the system immensely. But I think it might be kind of cool, and I'm willing to at least try it out. Not to mention using good old-fashioned distilled water that doesn't clog up your pipes like a big turd is a huge bonus. But what kind of sucks about this pink tubing is that A, I don't have it yet, so it's going to take a few days to get here, and B, it only comes in the skinnier size with an outer diameter of 12 millimeters, whereas this stuff and the fittings that EK sent me are compatible with 16 millimeter outer diameter tubes. So I'm gonna have to wait for EK to send me some more fittings, assuming that they want to do that. And of course I'll have to wait for the pink tubing to arrive before I can actually get bending. So I'm sad to say there won't be any tube bending in this video, but it's still gonna be pretty fun. We get to slap on the other GPU block for our RTX 2080 Ti. You can see I've already got one of them done here. We're gonna get our 9900K installed into our slightly modified motherboard, which looks very lovely, except with a couple minor blemishes from not masking it 100%. This is Wifey Sauce is doing. I'm just gonna throw her under the bus because I'm her husband, that's what I do. And we're gonna fix this Velocity RGB block onto the board like so. And look at just how it just looks so seamless. It looks like it's part of the board. The design language for both of these pieces are so in tune with each other. It looks great. Maybe we'll get some cables connected and also the radiator and fans. You can see I spray painted the radiators in a light gray, trying to match the color of the sleeving here. And I actually think it turned out pretty nice. My spray painting skills are definitely improving. They're not 100% dry. It hasn't been a full 24 hours yet, so that's why they're resting kind of in midair on some camera lenses, but they look really good. Can't wait to get them fitted inside the case as well. We've got the thicker 38 millimeter radiator going up top with 3 fans in push. Those are going to be the LL120 series RGB fans from Corsair. And then we have our slightly thinner 27-28 millimeter thick radiator that's going to go at the front of the case, along with our pump res combo that's going to mount sort of like this straight to the radiator. It's probably going to be like, I don't know, maybe like this with a longer tube, of course, to fill up some of that dead space up top. So that's the plan. We're going to try to get all this hardware that I just showed off installed today so that when the tubes and the fittings come in, we're ready to go and start bending. And also, once all this stuff goes inside the case, we'll actually be able to see where all the parts are positioned in relation to each other, giving us a better idea of how we're going to go about doing our runs. So stay tuned to the end of the video. Maybe you guys can give me some suggestions for that. Should be a lot of fun. Let's get her done. All right, here is what I got so far. Looking pretty darn good, man. I'm really digging it. There are a couple things to note, however. For example, you might have caught while I was installing the water block on the 2080 Ti that it's not actually a 2080 Ti water block. It's rather an RTX 2080 block that EK sent me by mistake, and I didn't realize that until I had fully mounted it onto the GPU. I don't think it's an issue because I'm pretty sure that both these blocks are machined the same way. I think the difference just lies in the user's manual because, you know, there's a different number of memory chips, so perhaps the thermal pad positioning is a little bit different, but I emailed EK, I'm waiting on their response just to double confirm. Apart from that, I've got some Fractal Venturi HP12 fans at the front here for our front radiator, very nice. And in case you're curious, we get about 2 to 3 millimeters of clearance between our Revo D5 pump and the actual water block for our 2080 Ti's. It's very, very close. The teal on the motherboard matches the cables perfectly. Now that we have some decent studio lighting in here, it actually looks really close. I do have to go over and touch up some areas that were missed on the spray paint. You can kind of see some of the reflective material behind the paint there that just wasn't masked off fully properly. It's not a huge deal, shouldn't be too difficult to fix. It's also worth noting that this is not necessarily the final NVLink SLI bridge that I'll be using. I may very well swap this out with something with a little more flair down the line. We'll just have to wait and see. Now this is the stock reservoir tube that came with the pump res combo, and I was planning to actually swap it out with a 204mm tall one, but that's definitely not going to happen because in order to do that, I would have to mount the pump way down here at the bottom fan mount on the radiator, which is not possible now that I can see that there's a power supply shroud in the way, so this little guy will have to do. It actually ended up being the perfect height because it leaves us just enough clearance for the tubes that'll be going in and out of this radiator. On a final note, I want to point out that there's going to be a lot more pink in the finished product than what you see here. It kind of looks like teal's taking over at the moment. That's just because we don't have the tubing or the coolant in, which is going to be pink. So obviously pink is still going to be a very prominent color. This is Hotline after all. So I just thought I'd reassure any of you who are freaking out over the abundance of teal. Now let's talk about bends. There's a lot of different options and my head's kind of spinning. I literally just started thinking about this 5 minutes ago. So by no means is the path I'm about to share with you guys a set in stone option. I'm just sort of spitballing here, and this is sort of my first impression of how things could look potentially. And obviously you guys are free to give me some advice, suggestions in the comments. That's always appreciated. So here we go. We got the pump right here, right? What I was thinking is maybe we could come out here, just kind of hug the back plate of the GPU, and then just go straight into the GPU, and then we're gonna go boom with 2 tubes, essentially cooling these GPUs in parallel. Out the top card, straight back, left, and straight up into the VRM heatsink. And then from there, it's gonna come out here, straight to the left, straight up into the radiator, out of the radiator, straight down, all the way to the right, and then back into the CPU water block. Tube comes straight out of the block, straight up, and then a hard right into the radiator. And then here I was thinking maybe we could go straight down, perhaps behind the pump res, and then come out from underneath and straight back in. Might be kind of tricky, but I think it's doable. So I did a quick and dirty mock-up of that path I just described, and I really only drew the tubes that I think are gonna be the most visible from this perspective. So obviously not every tube is represented here, but that's sort of the lay of the land, and I'm not exactly sure how I feel about it just because, again, I haven't really given this too much thought so far, and it's really just hard to visualize because some of these tubes are more in the foreground than others, and it's just really hard to get a sense of depth of how this is all actually gonna look in person. So once I get the tubes in, I can start playing around with it, get a better idea, and again, this is all subject to change, so guys, please share your thoughts and suggestions in here. You know I'm a water cooling noob, I've only done this a handful of times, so I can use all the help I can get. And thus concludes what I would consider the first real build log for Hotline 2. I am super excited to get this underway finally, and I'm looking forward to sharing the rest of it with you guys. Feel free to get subscribed if you haven't yet so you don't miss part 2 coming up very soon, and feel free to Jesus. Everything's fine. Be sure to smash that like button if you enjoyed the video, guys. It helps a lot. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one, and I'll see y'all in the next video.